What I'm planning to do today is check out how these conical bullets that we have here. We have a selection of three different styles, and how these are going to fit in some of our more popular 36 caliber guns. And this selection that I have here is of course 36 caliber, and these are all copies or replicas of an 1851, with the exception here of our last one that's actually wouldn't call it a replica. This is a Colt second generation 1851. So okay, with that, let's start with a little bit of information on the bullets here. Well, this first conical comes out of a Lee bullet mold. Has a weight of about 130 grains, at least the way I'm casting these. Base diameter here of around 0.362 to 364, and first, I guess the only driving ring here on this bullet measures about 0.374 and has a nose right in the same area, 373 to 374. Next is a bullet coming from a bullet mold that's again manufactured by Lee, but this one is sold by Gone, and this one is known as the Richmond Laboratories, or we'll just call it the Richmond conical bullet. Has a weight of about 148 grains, and base diameter here considerably smaller than the Lee, which measured C362. This one is at about 355, and it goes up here quite a ways. Have no driving band on this bullet, and the nose measures 0.390, at least the way I'm casting them. And height of this bullet is about 0.589 base to the tip, and that Lee bullet that we had here measures about 0.517, so a little bit shorter. Now it's interesting because the way I cast this, the website on this Richmond bullet specs it out to have a base diameter of 0.355 and nose of about 0.390 and weighing about 147. I had a weight of a 148 and the same dimensions for the base and the nose, so things pretty well correlate with the website there. Third conical, again the mold is done by Lee Manufacturing. Again, this one is sold by Gone, and this one they call their Colt Factory bullets, kind of a replica of what the Colt Factory was producing back at that time. Base here measures, well, it has a weight of about 127 grains, and the base here measures 0.362 to 364. Again, pretty close to what the Lee does. This one has a driving band, and that gets up to about 0.380, so it should give us quite a bit of a sealing capability there if we're using a like a 368 chamber in the 36 caliber. Nose is about 0.375, so it drops a little bit in that size, and has a length of about 0.4 or about 0.554 or 549 for the total length of the bullet. As I said a minute ago here, the guns that we're going to check these out into, or take a look at our guns here, are all replicas of 1851, the 1851 Colt. And there are some differences. There's kind of three things that I'm looking at when I'm going to check the fits on these things. One of them is to make sure that base here is actually going to go into the chamber. So if your chambers in here are a little bit small, let's say, or a little bit tight, that base might not drop in there, and then it's going to be at some kind of a weird angle when you get it underneath this loading lever, and that won't be good. So that's one of the things that varies from one gun to the next, is the chamber diameter slightly. And second thing that varies on these would be the cutout here in the frame, how much recess there is for that bullet. And if you look at these first three, they're all about the same. This one has a little more, and then we get down to this one, and there's just kind of a V notch here, and the same with this one. So that's the second thing that we're looking at. And probably the third one would be the inside of that, but you can't see it right here, but the inside of the loading lever, what kind of shape that is, how well it fits over the nose of the bullet. So those would be the three differences that we can expect to see in these guns. And the first three 1851s here are replicas made by Pieta. And I've got three of them because there are slightly differences in the in the guns themselves from the times they were manufactured. This first one, I'm not sure when the date was, but it has the wider butt on the place here. And if I check my length here with that one, just to show what I'm talking about here, we get a measurement that fits across there. Okay, I got that fitting there right. And if I move over to the second one, I'm seeing that they've changed that, and that was largely due to the fact that people were kind of complaining or talking about the grip not being as much original. I think Pieta actually did that change. So I thought, well, with that done, maybe they changed something else in it too. So I brought have the 3 guns here. Like I say, this one I'm thinking maybe is in the 90s somewhere, and this one I think is around 2010 manufacture, and this one's fairly recent. I think 2021, 2022. So I'm not seeing any major differences here in the cutout shape in the frame for those guns, and all 3 of them have the back side of that is totally flat there. So if your bullet doesn't go in and you want to swing it around, it's not going to go past that flat section there. Okay, so we've taken out the cylinder, and we're going to see if we can slide this Lee conical, at least get its base started in that chamber there. And it's not just dropping in exactly. I think I could probably force it down, but 362 or 364 base doesn't really want to fit that well. Sometimes when you're casting these things too, the mold opens up a little bit as you're driving the sprue off from it, and it'll give it a little bit of a lopsided shape to it. In other words, it'll measure maybe 364, 365 across one section, and that would be enough to have an issue with it. But let's just take a check on that chamber and see what size we get with our vernier. Well, here I'm getting 364, and I think that Lee base was around 364, so it definitely is a tight fit there. Okay, so that may be an issue. And inside of our loading lever here, I've got kind of a recess in there, but it looks pretty much like for a round ball. And our Lee does fit in there nice, so that's a positive thing. That's gonna fit the nose of the bullet, pretty decent. Now the Richmond Laboratory bullet had around a 355 base on it, so I'm guessing that'll probably slide in there. Right, and it drops in like we'd like to see that go on. So that part is a definite go on that bullet. No problems with that. Now the conical Richmond here has a little more of a pointed nose to it, but and a little slop there, a little side movement possible, but it centers on the center of that loading lever, so it's going to shove down okay and maybe flatten the tip off a little bit, but that shouldn't be a problem. The Colt factory bullet measured around 362, 363. It might drop in there. Yeah, that thousandth or so smaller does make a difference on that chamber. And we don't have any trouble there with that. So it's also telling me that our chambers here are pretty uniform on that Pieta. So that's working out, and it's dropping into that spot where our ring, I think that was 10,000th larger. So that's where we're going to shave a little lead and get our seal. Again, this bullet has a pretty good point to it, so in that loading lever that's kind of more for a round ball, I'm definitely seeing some edge not fitting the conical like I like to see it, but it is going to center it, so it shouldn't. And with that base actually dropping into the chambers, things should go down pretty good. So that shouldn't be a problem. On this newer version of the 1851 by Pieta, has the narrower grip here. Same issue with the Lee conical. It doesn't want to drop into that chamber, so that's kind of telling me they didn't change their chamber diameters at all. As far as the cutout goes, that looks the same on these. So the Lee is not going to go, and otherwise we don't need to repeat our Colt factory or the Richmond Labs bullets. Those will do just the same as they did in the other gun. You might want to look at our loading lever here, and that has the same shape as the older version, more like for a round ball. But again, it's gonna push those conicals down with no problem. Maybe put a little flat spot on the top of them, but that's not going to affect, in my opinion, that's not going to affect their flight. So we're pretty much getting the same situation on the latest version of the Pieta 1851. Nice slight difference here. They got a little bit of a bevel on those edges around the chambers here, and that's not going to allow the bullet to go down, but it will help to center it. So if you're futzing around getting it to go underneath the frame here and the loading lever, you know, that might help some as far as not having the bullet at an angle like this and trying to jam it down in that spot. You may be able to balance that up there just a little easier because of that slight bevel that's there. Actually, it's not going to be real easy, but I think it could be done. So these next two 1851 replicas are done by Uberti, and there is a difference here in the cutout of the frame here, the way these are cut out. This one definitely has a lot of it. In fact, it's almost up to the barrel wedge groove here. And the one that they've been recently manufacturing, I think this is like a 2021 version. This one goes back to about 1985, somewhere in the mid 80s. So there's been a change in the design here in the cutout in the frame for that bullet, and I'm going to assume that that's more original because my second generation Colt here has pretty much the same design. So maybe they switched from that. But like I say, these are both Uberti, so there's a difference in that. And we're going to also check the diameter of the chambers here, see how the bullets fit in those. Ubertis typically are a little larger here, so I'm thinking that Lee conical we've got up here and also the Colt one will have probably no problems dropping into those in that area. And then we'll also check in on the shape of that loading lever here and see what that looks like on the inside of it. And so here's our Lee conical. Yeah, and right, that drops right down to the driving ring. In fact, that actually it even is taking some of that driving ring in there. So actually more than we bargained for. It's going to really set in there nice, but the fact that it's dropping down that much, you know, worries me just a little bit that we're not going to see much of a seal there. It's not going to shave much lead, and that could be that could be a problem there. All right, let's try our Colt here. We know the Richmond will fit, and again the Colt does. It has a larger driving ring on it, so that stopped it, and that's going to shave some lead there, and that shouldn't. That should work real well. I think that wouldn't be a problem in that area. And of course the Richmond drops in, and it's got a very large nose on it. I think it's a 390. If you ever tried to run a 390 ball down these into these chambers, you're going to know that you better be using pure lead, and you're going to have to exert, you know, considerable force on that to get it to go on. I think the website there that Airsgone has noted that on his. So okay, so that's a good fit there. Let's take a look at our loading lever. Okay, our loading lever has a pretty good concave shape to it, and that Lee is going to fit real well in there if we can get our fingers out of the way. Let's try our Colt factory. There's a little bit of wobble in that, but again, that's going to center pretty good, and that wouldn't be a problem there. If I can get the camera over to their side, we can see I'm talking about that. A little bit of wobble there. And let's do the Richmond. Actually, that's the best fit of the three on that loading lever. So, okay, that's good. And that was our 1985 approximately Uberti. Let's see what our modern one looks like. Let's take that apart. Remember, this is the one that has the smaller area grooved out into the frame. Let's see what that one does as far as the cylinder goes. Again, we'll try our Lee bullet first. It drops in. Okay, that time it's hanging there by the driving ring. Oh, just moved it a little bit and it dropped down. So no real difference on the chamber diameter there from the 85 to the 2020 version. Let's try our. If it's the same size, I guess we don't need to go through our Colt factory. It's the same deal there, and the same with the Richmond. You know, they're doing the same thing as they did on the 85, call it the 85 gun. Okay, let's check out that looks just a little sharper around the edges here. I wonder if they bored down just a tad further with their reamer or whatever they're using on that. Again, that Lee is going to fit fine. Get into the side here. Yeah, that's going to fit really good. And as far as the Colt Factory, I think there's a little bit of less slop there on the sides on that one. And of course the Richmond is going to fit fine. On the round ball, that's going to make a little bit of a groove, I think, around the edge of the round ball because of the sharpness of that loading lever there. But you know, no real problem. Those are all going to work. And here's the last one that we have, and this is our second generation Colt 1851 36 caliber. And remember, this one has the area here that's kind of not cut out so much on the frame. It's got pretty sharp corners on it, and we're going to try to rotate the conicals on this one because we forgot to do that on the last Uberti that we had. It has the same kind of a cutout. We want to make sure that fits okay. So let's first of all get this apart and check out how they drop into our chambers here. So trying our Lee conical here first. Colt might be a little larger on the chamber diameters, but it's still able to hang up on that driving ring. But there's not going to be a lot of shaving going on there. It's very similar to the Uberti we just did. But it does hang up on that, or stops there, so that's a good thing. And the Colt one, of course, has a larger driving band yet, the Colt Factory, so again, no problem with that. And the same with the Richmond. Drops right in there. Like I say, we're going to have quite a push to go with that 390 into that thing, and it's probably a 370 on the chamber diameter, so you're going to be taking off 10 thousandths on each side of this Richmond bullet. Okay, let's check out our loading lever here. See what Colt's done on that. I'm definitely seeing a concave shape in there. Let's try our Lee first of all. Yeah, a decent fit there. Try the Colt Factory. They're looking pretty good too. I'm not seeing a lot of slop on the sides, and of course our Richmond's gonna fit right in there like that. So all three of them would do that. Let's put her back together again and see how they slide underneath that cutout in the frame. All right, we'll drop our Colt in there first. No problem. See if it makes a corner. It's a little tight there on that, but it's gonna go around that corner, and I'm not gonna go any further because then I'll have a harder time getting it back out. But that's gonna go well. Let's get that one in there. I'll take the gun apart. You see that fits underneath there fine. And our loading lever comes down, sits on top of that, and we can ram her right down in. I was actually able to work that out without taking the barrel off. Let's try our Colt Factory next. Right, no problems there. Makes the corner just enough taken off here on the frame for that to go around with that nose. So that's gonna be a perfect deal. And let's try the Richmond there. It's got a bigger nose on it. There might be some problems with that, but the base is smaller, so we got some wiggle room. Really no problem the way that sunk down there. We got clearance on that too, so it's going to go right underneath there and be able to use our ramrod loading lever and put that down. So great. I say those work on the Colt, and that Colt the more modern Uberti that we've got has a similar design in here. So I will check, put that gun away, but I will check that out and make double sure that that's able to pass by the frame here. Okay, here's how Uberti. I went and got this gun again. Let's try the Lee in there. Well, that one's going to go in No, no questions about that. Now let's go with our Colt Factory. See if I can swing that underneath there. Well, that's kind of interesting. There's just a little more on that frame there. If it shows up on camera, I can not. I mean, it goes by it, no problem. I can just, but I get a little bit of resistance there on that. So it might just be a slight difference between that and the Colt second generation. Try our Richmond. And that one doesn't touch at all, so it just swings right underneath there. So, okay, so on the Ubertis, no problems there on those 3 Conicals. As far as 1861s go in the 36 caliber, of course, I don't have a Pieta in this. I'm going to remind myself to look at my Christmas list and see what we can work out there. So the Pieta gun isn't there, but I do have a second generation Colt, and also have a Army San Marco, and we have basically one of the newer Ubertis with a faster twist. I think 1 in 16 or so, where these are running around 1 in 30. Now if we look at the cutouts in the frames where the loading lever is going to come through, these are actually really nice, nicely shaped for the Conicals on all 3, and those cutouts go all the way through to the opposite side. So if you do end up having to swing your bullet all the way around, all the way through, it'll fit. So, with that, let's take this first one apart and see how the 3 Conicals actually will fit inside those chambers. I'm thinking Colt didn't probably change anything on their chamber diameters from the 51 to 61. So right there, that driving band is catching it up, but they're not going to get a lot of shaving going on there. So I'm thinking that you really want to make sure you got plenty of lubrication on that, or in there to make sure, if you're using wads, put one between the base here and the powder. That'll probably help to prevent any kind of chain fires you might get if you're going to use this one. I think there's enough friction there on that driving band to keep that conical in the cylinder and not having it walk ahead as you're firing, especially if you've got heavy loads in there. And of course our Colt Factory has a larger driving ring yet, so that's going to have no problems at all. That fits in there well. And the Richmond, we know it's got a 9.0 nose on it, so 3.90, so that's definitely going to have plenty to work with. So let's take a look at our loading lever, and that's got a conical shape to it on this thing, so that's going to fit those bullets pretty well. I think the 51 had the same situation. There's our Richmond bullet in there. Hope nobody complains about those little casting wrinkles in there, because as far as I'm concerned, that makes very little difference. It's probably the diameters that count a lot. And that one fits pretty decent too in the Colt Factory, and the Lee thing is going to fit. So all 3 of those will go just fine. Let's put her back together again and see how they swing underneath the frame. It appears we got a lot of room underneath here, and whether that piece of the section of the frame here is cut back enough or not, we'll soon find out. Our Lee goes in there. Still a pretty tight fit on that. I gotta work it on a little bit there. It drops in. Probably just me on that. Yeah, since that thing drops down, I actually dropped down there further this time. It went so that the driving band's actually in the chamber. Of course, no problems with that. We can run it all the way around the other side and bop it out. And as far as our Colt Factory goes, that's going to hang up on the driving band. So we'll see what there is for room on that one. Swings around there just fine. Quite a bit of clearance on that. It's going in there just great. And the last one, Richmond, drops in there easy. Oh, yeah, couldn't ask for anything any better than that. So here's our Army San Marco 1861, and I'm guessing we're going to be really close to the same as a Colt, because I've actually found quite a few parts interchange between these Army San Marcos and the Colt second generations. This one's got a little bevel on the chambers here. That's just kind of good. Let's try our Lee first. And the lead drops in there. The same issue with the Colt. I put it in right. There we go. Yeah, just like the Colt did, drop down past the driving band. Driving band's actually setting in there a little bit. I could probably shove it all the way down with my finger. And Colt factory. Hangs up again in the driving band, rotates around there. No problems. That's going good. And of course our Richmond's going to be just as good. That's basically the same as the Colt second generation that we just did. So things are real fine with that. And with the Uberti here, we've got possibly different size chambers on this. So let's see what that Lee does on that. Which starts pretty easy. Maybe just because I was a little better at it, and that's actually not dropping past that driving band. It's sitting on there, swings around fine. So that Lee conical is going to, I think, work out. Again, you might want to make sure you've got some lube or some kind of grease in the inside this thing. Maybe even use a wad over the powder on that, because we're not going to get a lot of shaving going on there with that kind of a fit. The Colt factory is going to be a different deal. That's going to go in there and have a larger. It's got a larger driving band, of course, so that one's going to rotate around the corner really easily. Let's get him out of there. And try our Richmond. Yeah, plenty of room on that. That's going to go down easy. And the Richmond would be the one to actually have to make a paper cartridge out of, I think, of those three. Maybe some better. The Colt factory probably would work, but this one, because it had that smaller base and the longer one, it's going to be a pretty sweet deal if you're making paper cartridges, I think. And that extra room in there is going to be maybe welcomed when you're putting the paper cartridge down there. So that pretty much winds things up here, and hopefully the video is going to be useful to somebody if you're looking for some information on the conicals, shapes, and on the guns that I was able to show here. So yeah, with that said, had a good time doing it, and like I say, hopefully it's helpful.